The Unsent Melody, Chapter 1. My piano, a grand, dark wood upright, stood silently in the corner of my living room, a beautiful, imposing monument to a dream long deferred. I'm Diana, 58 years old, and for most of my adult life, its keys had remained largely untouched, gathering dust under a lace cover. As a young woman, I'd dreamed of a concert career, of living for the music that flowed through my veins. But life, with its practical demands and subtle pressures, had steered me elsewhere. Family expectations, the need for a stable income, and eventually the demands of raising children saw my dreams of the concert hall replaced by the quieter melodies of domesticity. Now, with my children grown and my husband, Richard, increasingly absorbed in his work, our once vibrant home often felt quiet, almost empty. A hollow ache, a resonant silence filled the space where music once lived. One crisp autumn afternoon, seeking comfort in nostalgia, I began to sort through a dusty old trunk in the attic. It belonged to my grandmother, a woman of quiet strength and hidden depths, who had passed away years ago, leaving behind a few carefully chosen keepsakes. At the bottom, nestled among yellowed lace and faded photographs, I found a small, ornate wooden box, its surface worn smooth by time. Inside, beneath a layer of tissue paper, lay a single, remarkable item. A thick, leather-bound notebook of sheet music, its pages brittle and discolored with age. It wasn't just any music. The compositions were intricate, unusual, brimming with a captivating blend of melancholy and soaring hope. My fingers traced the delicate handwritten notes. Tucked within the pages, held by a rusty paperclip, was a single, thin, yellowed letter. It had no address, no sender's name, just a simple, elegant script. My heart quickened. The date on the letter jolted me. October 14th, 1985. The very day, 39 years ago, when my beloved only brother, Daniel, had tragically died. Daniel, my younger brother by 5 years, my confidant, my childhood accomplice. His death, a sudden, inexplicable car accident, had shattered our family, leaving an unfillable void. I unfolded the letter with trembling hands. It contained only one line, stark and enigmatic. This melody is a bridge between worlds. Find it. You will feel when the time is right. The handwriting was unfamiliar, strong, yet flowing, not Daniel's. It was a complete mystery. Who sent it? And why was it with this sheet music on the day Daniel died? The implications sent a shiver down my spine. My fingers, almost instinctively, found the first page of the notebook. The compositions were unique, unlike anything I'd ever encountered in my classical training. They didn't conform to standard structures, yet they possessed an undeniable, magnetic quality. The first melody, titled The Whispering Willow, began with a haunting, slow progression, then erupted into a cascade of arpeggios that seemed to mimic a gust of wind. I carefully lifted the lace cover from my piano, my fingers hovering over the keys, a familiar yet distant sensation. I hesitated, then slowly, deliberately, began to play The Whispering Willow. The notes, though challenging, flowed under my touch with surprising ease, as if my hands remembered them from another life. As the final chords resonated, something extraordinary happened. The air in the room seemed to thicken, shimmer. For a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse, a spectral flash, of a sun-dappled ancient willow tree, its branches dipping into a calm, sparkling lake. And then a sound, a faint, joyful laugh, unmistakably Daniel's. My hands froze on the keys. It was impossible. Daniel's laughter so vivid, so real. The vision so fleeting, yet so impactful. This wasn't just a beautiful piece of music. This melody is a bridge between worlds. The words from the letter echoed in my mind. Was this some form of auditory hallucination? A trick of a lonely, aging mind? Or had Arthur's eccentric theories that memories could be preserved beyond simple recordings hinted at a deeper truth? Over the next few days, the mysterious sheet music became my sole focus. I played the Whispering Willow again and again. Each time, the vision became clearer, more sustained. Daniel, younger, vibrant, throwing pebbles into that sparkling lake, his face alight with pure joy. But he wasn't alone, standing slightly in the background. Half obscured by the willow's branches was a woman. Her face was indistinct, shrouded in shadow, but her posture, her long flowing dress, hinted at a graceful presence. She seemed to be watching Daniel, a tender, unseen guardian. The notebook contained several more compositions: Emerald Eyes, Stone Cottage Echoes, the Unsent Letter. Each one promised another piece of the puzzle. The deeper I delved into the music, the more convinced I became that these weren't just random compositions. They were connected, a musical narrative. I began to notice subtle anomalies in the sheet music itself. Certain notes, here and there, seemed slightly off, almost intentionally misplaced. A B-flat where a B natural should be. A sudden, jarring chord in an otherwise harmonious phrase. At first, I dismissed them as transcription errors, or perhaps a stylistic choice. But when I played them exactly as written, even the wrong notes, the visions intensified. The sense of presence in the room deepened. It felt as if someone was trying to communicate with me, through the music, through Daniel. The unsent melody began to haunt my waking hours and seep into my dreams. The music, the visions, the hidden woman, Daniel's laughter. They were all threads of a narrative I didn't understand, a narrative that felt profoundly connected to Daniel's last days, a narrative that his death had tragically silenced. This wasn't just about rekindling a lost passion for the piano. This was about uncovering a truth, a final message from my brother, a melody of his last untold story, a story that felt as if it had been waiting for me to play it, to finally hear it, for nearly 4 decades. Chapter 2. The Unsent Melody Notebook had become my obsession. Each discordant note, each fleeting vision, felt like a deliberate breadcrumb trail left by my brother Daniel. The memory of his joyful laughter near the shimmering lake, the ghostly figure of the unseen woman, they pulsed in my mind, urging me deeper into the musical enigma. I now understood the enigmatic letter. This melody is a bridge between worlds. Daniel, or someone connected to him, was reaching out. I meticulously re-examined the sheet music, searching for patterns in the incorrect notes. It wasn't random. There was a subtle rhythm, a repeated sequence of these altered notes, almost like a code embedded within the compositions. I consulted my old music theory textbooks, searching for ciphers or musical codes, but nothing immediately presented itself. These anomalies seemed unique to this notebook. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, I began to research Daniel's last few months. After his graduation from university, he had taken a gap year, traveling through remote parts of the British Isles before starting his graduate studies. He had been unusually secretive about this trip, sending only postcards with vague descriptions, unlike his usual verbose letters. My parents, still reeling from other family challenges at the time, hadn't pressed him. But now, this secrecy resonated. I pulled out an old map of the British Isles, spreading it across my living room floor. As I played the Whispering Willow again, focusing intently on the part that generated the lakeside vision, I paid close attention to any details. The shape of the lake, the distant hills, even the specific type of willow tree. They seemed to suggest a very particular region. I cross-referenced this with Daniel's postcards. One from the Scottish Highlands mentioned a place of quiet beauty where the lochs whisper secrets. Loch Lomond. The lullaby's title, The Bonny Banks of Loch Lomond, suddenly clicked into place. My mother's altered version, the one she sang with such sorrow, was a direct link to Daniel's hidden world. Playing Emerald Eyes, the next composition, the visions intensified. I saw Daniel standing near a small, rustic stone cottage, its windows glowing warmly. Surrounded by a riot of wildflowers, his face, illuminated by an unseen light, was filled with an emotion I rarely saw. Profound happiness, almost ecstasy. And the woman. This time her face was clearer, though still partially obscured by shadow or distance. She had long, dark hair, falling in waves around a gentle, oval face. And yes, her eyes, even in the hazy vision, seemed to gleam with a distinct emerald hue. She was laughing, reaching out a hand towards Daniel. The scene was intimate, loving, utterly alien to anything I knew about my brother's life. The sudden, jarring chords and stone cottage echoes produced the most unsettling visions. They showed Daniel and the woman, sometimes arguing, sometimes embracing, their faces etched with a mixture of love and tension. The melody shifted, growing more dissonant, and I saw fleeting images of conflict. A shadowy figure, a car speeding away, a sense of urgency and fear. Was this connected to his death? My hands trembled on the keys. It felt too close, too real. Then came the unsent letter. This piece was a slow, melancholic waltz, punctuated by those deliberate, wrong notes. As I played it, the visions became almost painfully clear. I saw Daniel sitting at a small wooden desk in the stone cottage, frantically writing in a journal. The woman, emerald eyes, stood by the window, looking out with a worried expression. Daniel then pressed something into her hand, a small, delicate silver locket. He spoke, but I heard no words, only a profound sense of urgency, of a final goodbye. He embraced her tightly, a desperate, tender embrace, and then he left, walking out into a driving rain. The final chords were a chilling echo of screeching tires and a sudden, devastating silence. The music faded, and I slumped over the piano, gasping for breath. The raw emotion of Daniel's last moments, reconstructed through the melody, was overwhelming. The wrong notes were not errors. They were emotional markers, points of heightened feeling, designed to trigger these profound memories. My brother had composed his last weeks, perhaps even his last moments, into this music. He had been in love. He had been planning to leave. And something, perhaps related to that shadowy figure, or the urgent departure, had led to his death. The letter's phrase, "This melody is a bridge between worlds," now seemed literal. Daniel was communicating, not just through memory, but through the very fabric of his final experiences, embedded in the notes. The unseen woman, Emerald Eyes, was a vital part of this narrative. I had to find her. The stone cottage, the specific lock, the locket. These were my new clues. Daniel hadn't just died in an accident. There was an untold story, a secret life he was desperately trying to share, a final, unsent melody that could finally bring him peace and perhaps bring me the truth I'd unknowingly searched for all these years. Chapter 3. The unsent melody was no longer just a collection of notes. It was Daniel's final confession, a heart-wrenching chronicle of his secret life. The visions, sharpened by each wrong note, painted a vivid, agonizing picture. His profound love for Emerald Eyes, their hidden life in the stone cottage near Loch Lomond, the sense of urgency, the final desperate goodbye, and the chilling echoes of the crash that took his life. The locket he pressed into her hand, a final, tangible token of his love, haunted me. My brother hadn't simply died. He had been living a secret life, a life interrupted by tragedy. The first clue was the lock. A quick check of Daniel's old travel itinerary and postcards confirmed his stay near Loch Lomond. I searched for Stone Cottage Loch Lomond online, focusing on descriptions that matched the rustic appearance from my visions. It was a long shot, but I found a few small, privately owned cottages for rent in the area, often advertised on local community boards rather than major sites. One in particular, called Willowstone Cottage, caught my eye. The description mentioned an old, gnarled willow tree by a small inlet of the loch, and a history stretching back over a century. This was it, the Whispering Willow. The next step was to find Emerald Eyes, the unsent letter musical piece, with its poignant climax, suggested the locket as a key. I hypothesized that if the music was a coded message, perhaps the wrong notes spelled out something. I spent days poring over music theory, cryptography, and even old gematria tables, but the code remained elusive. Then I remembered Daniel's quirky habit. He used to translate his feelings into numbers, assigning values to letters. He'd done it in childhood games. Each musical note could be assigned a numerical value, and the wrong notes would then create a unique numerical sequence. It was painstaking work, but as I played the unsent letter again, carefully noting each deliberate dissonance, I translated the wrong notes into numbers, then converted those numbers into letters using a simple A=1, B=2 cipher. The resulting sequence, after much trial and error, slowly coalesced into a name, Elara, and then a word, garden. Elara Garden. Elara, not Emerald Eyes, but Elara, and garden, a reference to the hidden rose garden that symbolized Eleanor's own secret. Was there a connection between Daniel's secret love and our mother's hidden past? The thought sent a jolt through me. I immediately searched for Elara Garden, Loch Lomond, and found a small, privately run botanical garden and nursery, renowned for its rare roses, nestled in a secluded valley near Willowstone Cottage. It was a place known for its tranquility, its beauty, and its reclusive owner. Its website showed photos of an older woman with long, dark hair, now streaked with silver, her eyes a striking, deep emerald green. It was her, the woman from Daniel's visions, Elara. My heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and dread. What would I say? How would I approach this woman who held the last pieces of Daniel's life, a life he kept hidden from us? I decided to visit Elara Garden in person. A plane ticket to Scotland seemed like the most natural next step, a direct journey to the heart of the mystery. The journey to Loch Lomond felt surreal, a step into a living memory. As I approached Elara Garden, the familiar scent of old roses, just as I'd glimpsed in the projector, filled the air. The small stone cottage I recognized from the visions sat nestled among the flowers, its windows indeed glowing warmly. I found Elara tending to her roses, her hands strong and earthy. She looked up as I approached, her emerald eyes still piercing, holding a quiet wisdom. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft, with a gentle Scottish lilt. "My name is Diana Vance," I began, my voice trembling. "I'm Daniel's sister." Her eyes widened, a flicker of something ancient and painful passing through them. She dropped the trowel she was holding. "Daniel? Daniel Vance?" Her voice was barely a whisper. You're Diana? He spoke of you. He loved you very much." Tears welled in her eyes. "He wrote music, Diana. So much music. He said it was for you. If anything ever happened. He said you would understand, that you would hear his unsent melody." She led me into the stone cottage, warm and cozy, filled with the scent of dried herbs and old books. We talked for hours. Elara was indeed Daniel's secret love. They had met during his travels, a chance encounter that blossomed into a fierce, consuming love. She was a gifted botanist and a solitary soul, drawn to the quiet beauty of the garden. Daniel, escaping the pressures of his family's expectations and longing for a life of artistic freedom, found solace and profound connection with her. They had been planning to run away together, to leave everything behind and start a new life, just days before his death. The shadowy figure I had seen in the visions was Elara's estranged, controlling uncle, who disapproved of their relationship and had threatened Daniel. The urgent departure was their attempt to escape his interference and start fresh. Daniel, in his final moments, had been rushing to meet Elara, to finalize their plans, to give her the locket which contained a tiny, folded piece of paper with a drawing of the willow tree and the words, "Our place, our future, with you." He had been pursued. His car accident, Elara confirmed, was not entirely accidental. There had been a struggle, a dangerous chase initiated by her uncle who wanted to intercept Daniel. The unsent melody was not just a tribute to his love, but his desperate, coded attempt to tell me the truth about his final days, about Elara, and about his true happiness. He had composed the music in secret, just before his death, knowing that I, his musical sister, would be the one to hear it. Then, Elara revealed the most astonishing truth of all. Daniel had left behind more than just music. As she spoke, she gently placed her hand on her abdomen. "Daniel and I," she said, her voice soft. "We had a child, a daughter. She was born a few months after he was gone. He never knew." My breath hitched. A niece. Daniel's child. Another hidden life, another secret waiting to be uncovered, brought to light by the haunting power of the unsent melody. The music had not only revealed Daniel's final love, but had led me to the next generation of his lost legacy. A new branch on our family tree that was waiting to be discovered, waiting for its own song to be finally heard. Chapter 4. The revelation of Elara, Daniel's secret love, and the chilling truth behind his death, a desperate flight from her controlling uncle, had profoundly shaken me. But nothing could have prepared me for the final, astonishing truth. Elara had carried Daniel's child, a daughter born months after his tragic passing. My brother, my beloved Daniel, had a child, a legacy I never knew existed, a hidden branch on our family tree. The Unsent melody had become a bridge not just to the past, but to a vibrant, living present. Elara introduced me to her daughter, Lena. Lena, now in her late 30s, possessed Daniel's exact artistic temperament, his sharp wit, and a quiet, intense passion for nature. She had grown up in Elara Garden, nurtured by her mother's love and the surrounding beauty, but always with a vague sense of an absent father, a man her mother described as a kind, adventurous artist who had died before she was born. Elara had never explicitly told Lena about Daniel's identity or the circumstances of his death, wanting to shield her from the pain and complexity of the secret. Lena was a gifted artist, particularly a painter, her canvases often depicting vibrant, almost ethereal landscapes that seemed to echo the very visions I had seen in the Chronos projector. Sun-dappled lochs, ancient willow trees, and mystical rose gardens. She had an intuitive connection to the land and a deep, unexplained affinity for music, often sketching while listening to melancholic classical pieces. I shared the Unsent melody notebook with Lena, explaining how Daniel had composed it, how it revealed his last days, his love for Elara, and his desperate coded message. As I played the melodies for her, describing the visions each wrong note invoked, Lena listened with rapt attention, her eyes widening. I've always felt a connection to these places, she murmured, gazing at a particular sketch of a willow tree I'd drawn. It's like I've been there before, in a dream. When I played the unsent letter and explained the locket, Elara retrieved it from a small velvet pouch she always carried. Inside, next to Daniel's drawing of the willow tree and the words, "Our place, our future, with you," was a tiny, faded photograph of a smiling Daniel looking directly at the camera. His eyes full of life. It was a tangible piece of him, a link to the life he had so desperately wanted to build with Elara. I then explained Daniel's coded message within the music, revealing Elara's name and the word garden. Elara, overwhelmed, finally shared the full extent of her uncle's controlling nature, his threats, and the details of the fateful chase that led to Daniel's accident. It was a dark, painful truth, but one that finally brought clarity to Daniel's death. It wasn't just a random accident. It was a consequence of a love that defied societal expectations, a love Daniel was willing to fight for. Lena listened in stunned silence, learning the truth about her father, Daniel, about his secret life, his love for her mother, and the tragic circumstances of his death was a torrent of emotion. But it also brought a profound sense of identity and belonging. The artistic talent, the quiet sensitivity, the love for nature, it all made sense. She was Daniel's daughter, the living embodiment of his unsent melody. The most powerful moment came when I suggested Lena try playing the piano. She hesitated, admitting she had never had formal lessons, but always felt drawn to it. As her fingers, hesitant at first, then more confident, touched the keys, a familiar melody emerged. The bonny banks of Loch Lomond, the lullaby, the one my mother, Eleanor, had sung to me, the one Daniel had associated with his secret life. Lena played it naturally, intuitively, as if the notes were etched into her very being. It was then I realized the true depth of the bridge between worlds. The music wasn't just a code, it was a conduit, a legacy. Daniel had passed his love for music, his very essence, to his daughter. And the lullaby, sung by Eleanor, then unconsciously picked up by Daniel and tied to his secret love, had now come full circle, passed to his own child. It was a testament to how deeply family connections, even hidden ones, resonate through generations. The healing extended beyond Daniel's immediate family. I gathered my entire family, including my brother James, and shared the complete story of Daniel, Elara, and Lena. There was shock, tears, and eventually, immense understanding and acceptance. Lena and Elara were welcomed with open hearts, a new branch of our family tree, vibrant and full of untold stories. My parents, had they been alive, would have been devastated by the secret, but perhaps also incredibly proud of the profound love that had flourished in secret. My own musical journey, once abandoned, had found its true purpose. The piano in my living room was no longer a silent monument. I played the Unsent melody for Lena, explaining each note, each vision, sharing Daniel's final profound gift. Lena, in turn, began to compose her own pieces, inspired by her newfound heritage, channeling Daniel's spirit through her art. Unsent melody, a collection of notes, a secret love, a coded message, had ultimately become a symphony of connection, healing, and profound understanding. It proved that some bonds are so deep, some truths so vital, that they will find a way to be heard, even across the silence of decades, bridging worlds and reuniting hearts through the timeless language of love and music. My own life, a symphony of connection, healing, and profound understanding. It proved that some bonds are so deep, some truths so vital, that they will find a way to be heard, even across the silence of decades, bridging worlds and reuniting hearts through the timeless language of love and music. Once marked by a sense of unfulfilled musical dreams, was now enriched beyond measure, its most beautiful symphony finally played.